Mhm. Right then, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Generative Engine Optimization, the Future of Content Creation. My name is Beth and I'll be your host for today. So this is a very exciting time for GEO Studios as this is the first of our webinar series that we are hosting. Over the next few weeks, we'll be hosting a few more and it is actually named GEO Sessions. So thank you so much for coming along. I really do appreciate you showing up today and hopefully you can learn something interesting about GEO over the next half an hour. Right then. So let me introduce myself. So my name is Beth Wakefield. I'm a creative strategist here at GEO Studios. I work primarily within the marketing department, but obviously as is agency life, you kind of find yourself flitting between roles as and when needed. My specialisms sit within marketing strategy, SEO, GEO, copywriting, and thought leadership. Before I joined GEL, I've been in the marketing industry for several years now. I worked with creative startups all over the Southwest. I've also worked with a few creative agencies. I've also worked as a freelancer. And most recently, in the role that I had before joining GEL, I was an academic. So I taught marketing on a theory and practice-based level to undergraduates and postgraduate students at Bar University. So in the grand scheme of job roles and employment, it's kind of a unique mix. And I like to think that I bring kind of a unique perspective to GEL and the work that we do. Now, for those of you that don't know who GEL are or just need a little introduction into who we are as an agency, GEL Studios is a purpose-led creative agency based in Wiltshire. We are B Corp, and our mission is to deliver impact through strategic thinking, creativity, and collaborative partnerships that drive sustained success. And our vision is to inspire change through creativity. So what that means is that we are always looking for opportunities to create the extraordinary for our clients, but we are also always looking for opportunities to give back to our local communities and to the people that maybe cannot afford creative agency fees, but may be able to benefit from a donated website or just help with marketing and things like that. So the services that GEL Studios offer are a strategic combination of branding, graphic design, marketing, and websites. Today, we'll be focusing on everything marketing as GEO sits firmly in the realm of marketing, content creation, search strategy, and also a little bit of SEO as well. Before we properly begin, though, obviously, if you've joined, you'll notice that the chat and everything is kind of closed off at the minute, but you will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So at the end, I will open up the chat for everyone. And if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. Obviously, if you would like to hold off, then that's absolutely fine. I'll have my email at the end of this particular slide deck for you to contact me if you would like to reach out and ask any other questions outside of the webinar. And also don't feel like you need to panic and screenshot everything throughout this, as a PDF of all the slides will be emailed to you after the webinar. So just sit back and enjoy and hopefully learn something new. The agenda for today then is basically what is generative engine optimization fundamentally. So this isn't a course for people that know a lot about this. This is more of a kind of introductory starting point for people who know about GEO but maybe have no idea what to think of it or maybe too scared to approach it. So just kind of an introduction to get you started, and then hopefully after this webinar you can do your own research and start to grow your knowledge as well. We'll also talk about how to rank with GEO, because it's all well and good and talking about it, but how on earth do you do it successfully? So we'll talk about the basic principles of GEO just to get you started. And then we'll also spend some time trying to differentiate between GEO and SEO, so there's no confusion there. Right. If we flash back to a year ago, I was at Brighton SEO with a few members of the GEL Studios team, and I was attending a few search strategy conferences, just hoping to refine my SEO skills, as it were, and just learn a few new things that are going on in the industry. What I didn't expect was to walk out and learn that a new type of engine optimization now exists. And if you do work in this sector and you deal a lot with SEO, you'll know that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and it does take a lot of time to master. So the idea of a new engine optimization now being around was quite daunting at the time. And, the fear set in during those conferences because I knew immediately I had to go back and tell our founder, Graham, that we've got a new engine optimization to master, which is always a scary thing to do. But a year on, I can say that I've learned a lot, and it's not as daunting as you may think. And it's exciting because it's AI. So it's a new thing to learn and it's extremely relevant nowadays. Right. So what exactly is GEO? So Generative Engine Optimization stands for the process of optimizing your website's content to boost its visibility in AI-driven search engines such as ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot, and Google AI overviews. Now that is a mouthful, but in simple terms, it's basically about creating content that communicates effectively with AI. as in AI can read your content, make sense of it, and then produce it in a summarized version for a user. It's about catering to AI, essentially. Now, if that still doesn't mean a lot to you and it's confusing you, what I've done is put this screenshot in. So this is a screenshot of Google and its search engine with an AI overview powered by its large language model, Gemini, which I'm sure everyone on this call has probably had some kind of interaction with. So this screenshot is basically, when we talk about GEO, this is what you need to be focusing on. You don't need to worry about the search results below. You need to focus on the AI overview. So basically, your content needs to be so brilliant, so well put together, and so concise and clear that AI can pull from it and provide a summarized response on the left-hand side here. So this AI overview is where your content will be pulled through and summarized, not word for word, obviously, because AI does an effort to make sure that it's accessible. But what it does do is prioritize top 3 resources that it uses to give this answer. Because despite what we may think, AI isn't all-knowing and it does need to source its information from somewhere. So for example, Gemini would use Google. And these 3 articles are sat on the right-hand side because basically what the AI overview is telling you is that all of this information on the left is powered by these 3 articles on the right. So the whole point of GEO is getting your content on the right-hand side. It's basically everything that you've done here ends up over here, right? So that is GEO fundamentally. As a user experience, it works like this. So similar to SEO, a user will input a keyword, a subject, a term, or a phrase that you are targeting. In this example, I use the principles of branding. And then once you've put that in, AI will spend a few seconds mulling over it, thinking about where to get the sources from, and then it will provide an accurate and summarized version of your content in the AI overview. So in this case, it's provided a really concise bullet point list of information for you to consume quite easily and quite quickly. But instead of stopping there and kind of forcing you to not look any further, AI works in your favor in a way, and then will put 3 articles on the right-hand side to tell you where it's got its information from. So it encourages you, if this information is not enough, it's basically saying, this is where I got this information from. So if you need to go and read more, please do so. So what it also does as well, though, you'll notice in these bullet points is that it adds individual hyperlinks to each of these sentences. So if you know 90% of this, you can then click through this list, click on the hyperlinks individually and find this particular piece of information. So AI is always working with you to expand your knowledge, despite what people may think about it kind of dumbing us down. It always presents an opportunity for you to learn more if you choose to do so. So when we talk about GEO, I mean this AI overview and getting your content into AI overviews on search engines. So easier said than done, right? How on earth do you actually do that? How do you rank your articles in those top 3 resources? Well, that's what I'll talk you through now. So basic principles of GEO. Like I said at the start, this webinar is the basics. So there is many levels to GEO, but these are kind of the starting points. So if you're just thinking about how you can start to structure your content to target GEO, these are a great place to get going with. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through each of these, and then I'll give you good and bad examples of each to make sure that you know what to do and what to avoid when it comes to writing content in this way. So first off is structure and clarity. So the whole point in AI is that it's quick. It can filter through content extremely fast and then provide a very clear answer very quickly. If you're uploading heavy amounts of content that are extremely wordy, using fancy terms that don't necessarily need to be there, and the user is struggling to understand your content most of the time, AI will disregard that content and move on to something else. The whole point in AI is that it's quick and accessible. So you need to make sure that your content is as well. So use concise, clear sentences. Don't overthink it. Speak it out loud. If it's a mouthful when you're out of breath by the end, it's probably not the right thing to do. Break down complex ideas into easy to read sections. So I know the temptation to put everything in a paragraph because it looks better on a website is the way to go, but it's not. Make sure that if you are a business or a brand or a service that needs to break down information, make sure that you're doing that, because AI relies on that to pass through your content quickly and decide whether or not it is a valuable resource. And also avoid unnecessary jargon. So if you are a business that is just shoving in larger terms for the sake of it, AI can see through that. But if you are a business that needs to do that and you need technical acronyms and technical terms included, then obviously continue to do so. But if you are shoving them in just for the sake of it, then maybe avoid doing that. AI will rely on a source that doesn't do that and thinks there's a better and more simplistic approach, shall we say. So example of this is the question asked is, what is market research? The bad example is borderline academic, I will say. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I used to be an academic, but in terms of getting information over to a user quickly, this is a really bad example because it takes you a minute to read. Every word is long, it's a mouthful, and you're out of breath by the end of it. So it is worth considering, like, yes, this is informative and it's smart, but it's not accessible. And AI, when it gives you an AI overview, doesn't want to confuse you further. It wants to make your life easier. So the good example of businesses that use surveys, interviews, and data analysis to understand customer needs and improve their strategies is fine. You know, there's no crazy words in there that are trying to make it sound smarter than it is. It's very direct and it gets the point across. So it's not going to confuse the user by making it even more complicated than it may already be. Next up is context and depth. So AI favors content that fully answers a question rather than just scratching a surface. If you're a business or a brand that's, focused around less is more, and I like a minimalist website with very little text on, that may not work in your favor with GEO, as GEO and AI, the whole point of it existing is that detail is provided. AI overviews wouldn't be as popular as they are if they always provided you half the answer. So in order to target them, you need to make sure that you're providing as much detail as you can to make the lives of your users and your customers much easier. So cover the topic in depth rather than just providing a brief answer. And I know that some of you may think that just contradicts the whole point of being short and sweet, like the previous point, but there is a way to carry detail and also keep it concise. So think about that carefully. Like I said, speak it out loud. If it feels clunky or it's not easy to understand, then rethink. There's always ways to refine the language like that. And if possible, always include supporting facts and figures and real world examples. AI always relies on source to make sure that it's not spreading misinformation. And I know that's up for debate, but AI is always being developed to improve in that area. And if your bold statements on your website are not backed up, then it may not reach for you as a valuable resource for the average user who's using the search engine. So example of this is, what is HTML used for? The shallow answer is just it's used for web development. It's not wrong, but it's so surface level, it's borderline not helpful. Whilst the good example is hypertext markup language is the foundation of web development used to structure content on websites. It defines elements such as paragraph, images, and links. So it's not too long, I'm not bored, and it gets the point across, which is what we need, right? The one above is not helpful to anyone. It's just boring, and I wouldn't say it's overly helpful at all. So make sure that you're including information that will genuinely help the user. Next up is conversational tone. So despite being a robot or an alien or whatever you want to call AI, AI exists to mimic human behavior. It tries to be like a human because, as selfish and narcissistic as we all are, humans relate to other humans. So if this robot was too robotic, we wouldn't engage with it. But the fact that AI mimics natural human behaviors in conversation is true. And what it looks for is natural conversation in the content that it uses as well. It doesn't want to come across as wooden. So it looks for content that feels like a human has written it. So if your content is quite wooden and it's not engaging and relatable in some way, then AI may skip over it and find something that would pull someone in a bit quicker to the AI overview. Obviously, this shouldn't come as too much of a surprise because this isn't niche to GEO. Like, hopefully, if you work within marketing, you're already thinking about how to keep your tone engaging and relatable. But with GEO, you just have to be considerate that AI is trying to be like humans because that's what we call to. So make sure that you're not speaking in a very wooden way that's borderline robotic. Okay. So example of this is the question is, what is GEO? So the first one is a very dictionary.com definition of generative engine optimization, which isn't wrong. And I know that some people on the call may like that, but AI is not looking to present information that way. It's trying to simplify, make it more accessible. So the tone that it may go for at the bottom is, ever wondered how AI search engines pick up the best answers? That's where generative engine comes in. So opens with a rhetoric, makes the user think, and then just engages them in a slightly different way. AI would look at that content and think that's a lot more engaging. Human behavior feels a bit more conversational. So the difference that it can make is massive. But obviously, I know there'll be a varying opinion of maybe I like the full more robotic approach, and that's fine. But just make sure that you're considering that when you're writing content for GEO. Next up is structured data and formatting. So this is very similar to SEO, and this is just standard practice, but you do need to still consider it for GEO and AI overviews, is that you need to make sure that you're using information and formatting correctly on your website. So basically, you're creating a clear hierarchy. There's no confusion for the user. It's not all one size, that you have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3 in place. Break up your content effectively. Use bullet points and numbered lists where possible. Don't just shove it all into one paragraph. Make sure that it's easy to break up, because when AI gets a search query, it will trawl through websites to find information. And if there's no formatting in place, it won't be able to differentiate when information starts and ends. So you need to make sure that formatting is in place. And I know that's a given, but you'd be surprised how many people don't. And then also use schema markup. So once again, a given, this should be in your website already. So this is a line of code that goes into the back end of your website that helps to distinguish certain areas of your website. For example, so like frequently asked questions section would have a schema markup code in the back end of the website to tell AI that this is a frequently asked questions section. And then when it's analyzing a website, trying to find information for an AI overview, that will help guide its direction a little bit. So it's all very important in the grand scheme of things. Example of this is the top paragraph, obviously, is to create a successful marketing campaign. There's no heading and it's just a collection of text. It's not overly useful in any way. It does answer the question like all of them, but it's just not the most effective or accessible way of answering this. And because it's all in one paragraph, it's hard to see when things start and end and when you move on to the next step versus how to create a successful marketing campaign down here, where there's a clear heading and there's 4 bullet points telling you what order to do things in. And I know that's a given and it's the basics, but I know that sometimes we favor how blog articles look or how websites look over how accessible they are. So if you can bullet point and add numbered lists to your website to make it easier to read and understand, then AI will thank you and you're more likely to appear in GEO results. Right, so the last one is trust and credibility. So this is once again a given, but AI is definitely prioritizing this moving forward to avoid spreading misinformation. So when you write content, make sure that you are citing your sources. I know there's a kind of tendency to not want to link to other websites to make it seem like we've written this content and we're all knowing and we shouldn't credit other businesses. But if you're learning and researching something, make sure you credit it. Because when AI is analyzing your content to find an answer, if it sees that you're linking and you've done the research and the groundwork to make bold claims on your blog articles or your website, it will see that as valuable and authoritative, and it will see the information as something that it can trust and then present to a user who's put in a search term. So don't be, kind of blocking everything off. Make sure that you're always saying, I've done my research, here is the proof of that, here are the hyperlinks, things like that. And obviously continue to showcase your expertise. Over time, AI is learning, the value of businesses and brand authority. So if your brand stands higher up and everything is moving correctly and you come across in a certain way with proof of that, then once again, you will look more reliable. And also another element of this is keeping your content up to date. So there's always a tendency to write a blog article and never think about it again. But if you are writing content consistently and then returning to that content a few years later to update it, AI will favor that. Because at the end of the day, AI is not going to source something from 2007. It's going to source something from 2024, 2025. So if you can look back through your website and think, oh, that blog is relevant nowadays, I just need to change a few things about it and angle it slightly different, then do that, because it basically proves to the AI that's searching through your website that you are reliable, you are constantly updating data, and that you're trustworthy, essentially. So example of this one in particular is the unverified claim. You don't even know what it's talking about. It's actually talking about Photoshop, but you wouldn't guess that from the sentence that's used. Very basic, doesn't really mean anything and has no weight to it. Whilst the one below, according to Adobe's official website, Photoshop is used by over 90% of creative professionals worldwide, making it one of the most widely adopted tools for graphic design. So without that hyperlink and proof of this, this would be a very bold claim. But in the context of this sentence with the link provided, it is backed up and there's nothing to question this if the research is there. So it's just about making sure that when you make bold claims or you try and say something that's a bit groundbreaking, that you're always trying to back that up, because unfortunately AI will see straight through that and it's got thousands of other resources to use. So why on earth would it pick yours when it can rely on something that is more reliable? Right. So those were the 5 core principles of writing content for GEO. And a lot of them are just a given, but it's important that you have them in the back of your mind so you're ultra clear on that before you move forward. Now, in terms of utilizing them and where to use them, it's very similar to SEO when it comes to on-page SEO. There is opportunity to use GEO everywhere, but the most common, obviously, frequently asked question blog post about company pages, how-to guides, product and service descriptions, and landing page for specific queries. So yeah, anywhere that you can write content, you can tap into GEO, like even meta titles and descriptions as well. But yeah, it's very simple. Don't overthink it. You can apply GEO everywhere. And once you do your own research and potentially, become an expert in this in a few months' time, you can utilize it elsewhere. But as a starting point, don't overthink it. Anywhere that you can write content is a place where you can target GEO. So how on earth does GEO differ from SEO? The last thing I want on this call is for people to leave and then struggle to differentiate between the two. They are similar, but they're also very different as well. So you can have them as a pairing, but just knowing the difference between the two can make a huge difference to how you approach each of your strategies moving forward. So visually, very simple. One is the AI overview. GEO is referring to that, and SEO is the search results beneath the hyperlinks, the meta titles, and descriptions. So visually, they are different. So that if that helps, seeing that on the screen, they are different, but they are quite similar as well. So what I've done to make it a little bit easier is put it side by side. So the context for SEO and what is the purpose of it. So SEO exists to improve website rankings on traditional search engines and just keep your website generally healthy. And GEO exists to ensure that AI generates accurate, relevant responses using your content. So basically ensuring that AI overviews present accurate content to the user at all times. So slightly different purpose in life, but working towards the same thing, making sure that content is good. Who are you creating content for? So SEO is human users clicking on search results provided by search engines. So there is a person with a keyboard and a mouse clicking through the links trying to find information, whilst the content you are writing for GEO is talking to AI directly, because AI is the deciding factor on what is generated in the AI overview. There's no human being sat behind the computer trying to figure out what is the best piece of information. So your content, like the GEO principles, should be targeting AI, whilst SEO is more direct towards human users. How do you rank for each one? This is where they begin to really overlap, and there are only slight differences, but fundamentally they rank on a very similar basis. So both of them are keywords. Unfortunately, with GEO, AI is not smart enough to do it without keywords, and you need to continue targeting them and working towards them because it uses that as a guide, as does SEO. Whilst SEO uses backlinks, high quality content, and technical SEO, GEO uses AI-friendly structure, clarity, clear formatting, and content depth. So I'm sure a few of you will look in this thinking that is quite similar, and it is, but it's just a different audience and a different engine that's being used, essentially. But fundamentally, SEO and GEO exist and have been developed over the years to ensure that user experience in search engines is genuinely helpful. Like what you are presented with when you put in a search term genuinely helps you in some way. That is the purpose of both of them, and you're not being misled or sold misinformation. So they do work towards the same goal, but they have two different audiences, obviously human and AI. What structure is needed to target them then? So obviously SEO is human readable content relevant to search queries. If you do SEO for a living, obviously you do your own keyword research and you'll know the trials and tribulations of doing that and how it is, like I said, a marathon, not a sprint. And there are many problems and good things that come with that. But human readable content is all based on the research that you conduct into keywords. GEO, on the other hand, is AI readable content, so easy for systems to summarize and skim over and make sense of. So detail orientated isn't always the same with GEO. SEO, you can add as much detail as you want, as long as you're using those keywords and making sure it's relevant, whilst GEO is relying on accessible information, but that is also in depth. So there's slight differences, but they overlap at many points. So to end the comparison, it's a little bit more philosophical in a way. So what do you gain from it? So SEO, if you do it successfully, you'll rank highly for keywords and terms, and you'll likely see an increase in organic traffic to your website if you're on page 1, top 3 position, just by kind of process of elimination. If you're at the top, you're likely to see an increase. Whilst with GEO, if your content is selected in the AI overview, you will be at the top of the page, especially on Google. If you've noticed, the AI overview always sits at the top and it is not pushed to the bottom. So obviously it's the prime location for any kind of search result, but it can also boost your brand authority and position you as a trusted thought leader. The whole association with AI being incredibly intelligent, to have your content pulled into the AI overview can position you as an authoritative figure if you do it enough and people start to recognize you in that space. If you're consistently showing up as a top resource and people realize that and users are seeing you consistently, then obviously it provides a bit of authority, positions you as, the really incredible thing that is artificial intelligence has picked my work to summarize that answer. That is a compliment to your content. But if you're interested, it could also position you as a thought leader, which is great. But with all good things, there are always risks. So what are the risks now associated with SEO and GEO? SEO obviously has been around for years and been through many stages of development. But unfortunately, with these AI overviews now coming in, especially on Google, the most used search engine, AI overviews now sit at the top of the page, and then you're met with sponsored content, and then you finally see the organic SEO results. So unfortunately, SEO has basically been shifted down the hierarchy of Google's search results. And if you're someone who's not on the first page of the term that you are searching for, and maybe you're on page 5 or 2, maybe even 2 to be fair, you may see issue with people not making it to your page because they're being met with so much content and so much helpful content above it that there is always a risk that people may not make it down the page to view your content. So relying on SEO nowadays is risky business. Whilst GEO, like I keep saying, AI exists to make our lives easier and generate responses that summarize the content quickly and efficiently. It may do that so well that a user literally doesn't need to click through to your website. They read that summary, they gain what they need, and they close the tab. There will be the occasional user that wants to research more and will look to the resources to do that. But most of the time, AI generated overviews do such a brilliant job of answering your question that most of the time you don't need to look further unless you're doing it with intent. So GEO, you may rank at the top, but there's no guarantee that anyone will click through. But it's the same with SEO. Even if you rank in the top 3, you may not get clicked. So the risk is similar. But unfortunately, there's a lot of politics going on with who sits at the top of the page and who gets downgraded to halfway down the page and vice versa. So it's always risky, which is why doing them alongside each other may fix that problem, definitely. So why should you care about GEO fundamentally? So if you're sat there currently thinking, I don't have the time for this, like my workload around SEO and the understanding of SEO that I have is fine, I need to just crack on with what I'm doing, I don't have time to learn a new engine optimization, you should be thinking differently. GEO is moving into a space where, like I said, especially on Google, it sits at the top of the page most of the time. Everyone is looking at it, everyone is using AI overviews. And as that data and that particular machine, that artificial intelligence gets smarter, it only get more helpful. So you need to think carefully about, am I prioritizing something that's halfway down the page, or should I prioritize something that's at the top of the page all the time? Especially when you have stats like this existing in the world. So 84% of Google searches are now impacted by AI-powered search generative experience, meaning a large number of users are seeing AI-generated summaries and overviews within their search result. So that's on Gemini specifically with Google, but 84% of searches are now impacted by this. So give that a couple of years and that'll be as close to 100% as it can be. So there is genuine concern for SEO that, everything's being pushed down the page. There are occasional searches where SEO and SERP results are at the top still because there is no AI overview provided. But in a period of time where we are working towards every single search having an AI overview, there's always risk associated with that because you want to be at the top all the time. And I always say it like this, that the AI overview is prime location. It is the top spot. It is prime real estate because the user is presented with information about a term and then linked to your website. So instead of using a SERP result where you just get a meta title and description that provides very little information about the brand, you're met with a huge summary of information and then they enter your website with even more context than they've ever had before, even more information. So if anything, there's less work on your business to get them in to inquire and work with you. If you think about it like that, it is prime real estate at the top of AI overviews. It really is. So in summary for this webinar, GEO is the future of search, whether we like it or not. And it is very important that you are tapping into it now and you are thinking about what you need to do strategy-wise or just generally what you need to do, research, look into it, see what you can find, learn how AI responds and talks to you, how it speaks to people, what it prioritizes in its content. Think about that because it is the future. The two of them can work in tandem. They both work towards the same goal of just making sure that search experience is better and that you are met with useful information and you're not fed lies or misinformation. So make sure that you are considering SEO and GEO. You shouldn't ignore one and prioritize the other. This is a period of time where we need to make them work in tandem, and I believe that they can. And yeah, basically make a start now because this is the early doors of GEO. And if you get your foot in the door now, it'll be easier for you to keep going in the future. So make sure that you are making an active effort to work towards this and, have chats with your teams, have meetings, have a chat about them, think about how your strategy can incorporate GEO, because it might be that your keywords for SEO and your key terms for GEO are different. So it's worth thinking about, definitely. Right, so that's me done. I just want to say thank you for everyone coming along today. So what I will now do is cancel out of this and open up the chat for everyone. If anyone would like to ask a question, obviously don't feel like you have to. If you do not want to, then that is absolutely fine. I will have my email on in a second, but I'll just leave the chat open for a minute or two. Please, if no one answers, that's absolutely fine. I will put my email up on the page just in case anyone would like to send a question at all. Give it a few more seconds. But yeah, what I'll do then is while people may be typing, I will put my contact details on the screen. So this is me, this is my email, my LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn. How will GEO affect systems such as ModX and Google Ads? Thank you for the question, Sam. So the same sort of thing with Google Ads is that the monopoly of Google and how things are sat in the search results is that there's always a concern that AI overview obviously sits at the top and is now impacting the way people interact with Google Ads. I can't speak on behalf of ModX myself, but I can have a word with our team because we are ModX specialists here at GEL. So that is definitely something I can return to you with. But for Google Ads, there's always the risk of AI overview does now actually sit above sponsored content. So there is always a risk that, sponsored content is now being put down the hierarchy as well. But with the monopoly of Google, when I attended Brighton SEO last year, there was talks of Google's monopoly falling apart as a result of AI because people are now moving to Perplexity, where it's just genuine AI responses and nothing else. AI overviews relentlessly. So we are moving in a direction where Google and its monopoly of sponsored ads and organic search are being pushed to the side. And maybe in 20 years' time, I don't know, Perplexity will be the thing that runs the game because people don't want sponsored ads. They just want AI overviews. And that is a genuine concern of people in the industry and what I learned about last year at Brighton SEO. But I can definitely query about ModX for sure, as our team, as I said, at GEL Studios are specialists with ModX. The initial price for GEO be. So GEO at the minute doesn't have a price. Obviously, I'm sure there are systems out there that can definitely, similar to SEMrush, work in your favor. SEMrush actually currently can tell you if you're ranking for GEO. There is a new symbol been added into the position tracking side of SEMrush. And yeah, sorry, Vanessa, I'll answer your question shortly. But yeah, the initial price for GEO will be things will be integrated into things like SEMrush. We at GEL use SEMrush for all of our search strategy related queries, and GEO is currently showing as a ranking on there. So you can definitely tap into that and see in your position tracking where GEO has been activated and where you are sitting position one. I'm sure with time there will be programs that are specific to GEO that, are basically SEMrush, but specifically for AI. So we'll see over time. But at the minute, your search strategy program should already be integrating GEO and signifying to you where you are ranking for that and how close you are to that and things like that. Do you know which percentage of each is used at the moment on searching? So this is something that I wanted to include, but it's very up and down. Every article is telling you something different. It's definitely heading in the direction that more people are, leaning on GEO and SEO, but it's more about how many people are actually engaging with AI overviews. So yes, 84% of searches now include, GEO and AI overviews, and we're working towards that 100% mark. But I have to say, when I was looking, it's very hard to tell because you have businesses that favor it and people that don't. So I think over time, that percentage of who is using what at the moment will become clearer. But obviously, with AI moving in the direction that it is, GEO is becoming more and more relevant. So it's important that we keep heading in that direction. And that stat, I'm sure, will be a lot clearer in the future. But like I said, this is so early doors for GEO that we need to think carefully about moving forward and getting a head start before everyone else does. Right. Okay, so that looks like it's the end of the questions. Like I said, thank you so much for coming to this call. I hope that it's at least giving you an introduction to everything. And it's not comprehensive by any means, but it's the first step that you need to take to move forward with GEO and then go away and do your own research, learn more about AI, and just keep moving in the right direction before everyone else joins the bandwagon. Like I said, this is my email, my LinkedIn. If you have any questions that you want to ask, but not on the webinar, please reach out to me, and also visit GEL Studios website to see how we could potentially help with GEO and your business moving forward and just search strategy in general. But thank you so much for coming, and I really do appreciate everyone being there. Thank you, everyone. All right, I'll close the call now. See you later. Bye.